Morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar/podcast. You can thank us later. Today, we are going to be speaking to two companies that are great friends to CG Minetta Consulting, and really they're a must in terms of restaurant owners and that specific vertical in terms to engage if you want to streamline your operations, if you're looking for change management, corporate expansion, you want to replicate your franchise. And also internally, from a processing standpoint, some points really to look at to save money and to make sure that the processing, credit card processing, and things like that are optimized. So today we're going to be speaking to Gary Norris. He's the owner of Norris Ventures, and Joe Nazario with DPS Card Services. So let's jump right into it. Gary, let's start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the beginnings of Norris Ventures, how you became the titan that you are?
Well, thanks for having me today, Daniel and Vinny. I appreciate it. Look forward to working many years working with you guys and hopefully making it to New Jersey before long. We can do this in person. Norris Ventures began really as an answer to a cry for help from entrepreneurs. I started and was managing a healthcare finance firm, and that firm won an award in the state of North Carolina in 2015. As a result of that, I got to teach at colleges and business courses and go around and speak at small business center meetings and things like that, and do some instruction. And out of that grew a really large opportunity to help entrepreneurs one-on-one. And we were able to monetize that. And my CFO came to me one day and he said, okay, enough is enough. You have to stop rolling this entrepreneur thing you're doing under the finance company, go start another company. So I did. And then in 2018, I sold the healthcare finance company and just went full in on Norris Ventures. And here we are today. So that's how we became the titan that we are.
So Joe, tell us, how'd you get involved with DPS? Give us a little background about yourself.
Well, that's kind of an interesting story. DPS originally was a customer of mine back, I guess, about 12, 13 years ago. I had a marketing company myself. I own that, and I was helping DPS started prior to me, but they came in, and I was helping them actually train and set up sales reps. They were looking to expand up and down the East Coast. So that's kind of what I was doing. And then as 2008 hit, and the market crashed, and obviously that well dried up for a lot of people in the marketing area. And so I went to DPS and said, I want to start selling for you guys. And that's what I did. And then as I was selling, they started offering me parts of the company and saying, hey, we want, what you're doing is working. So I'm going to give you 5%. I'll give you 5% more. And as that grew, now I'm up to 70%. So I have a partner in Florida, and that's kind of how that worked out. I kind of changed it from a company that was working with one particular ISO, which I'll get into what an ISO is later. But also I changed it into more of a brokerage company. So now we work with 50 different banks across the country and mega ISOs and all kinds of people. And that model kind of changed the way that people were looking at credit card processing.
Now where are you guys specifically, physically located?
I am located in Greensboro, North Carolina, and
Okay.
I have a partner that's down in Florida.
And are you able to handle the entire country, or is there certain areas that you're limited to, or?
No, we work coast to coast United States and coast to coast Canada.
Okay, cool.
There's really no restrictions demographically. And what I love too is it's funny because we built our company very similar to you in terms of networking and embracing partners that can complement what our portfolio offers. And for restaurant owners and anybody in the hospitality vertical, You guys are a heck of a 1-2 combo, and that's why I was excited to talk to you today. And I think when we're looking at it, you both have super unique services and a super unique approach to the markets. Now, Gary, as far as Norris Ventures goes, like on a day-to-day basis, I'm a restaurant owner. There's some things internally that I'm not 100% sure of. I know that the idea is great. I have 2 locations. I want to franchise, maybe expand. Tell me a little bit about, from a daily basis, how you help those type of business owners and what you guys do, from a broad perspective.
Well, you did a good job, Dan, listing the things that really we consider core competency. I can just share with you what restaurant owners ask me when we get on the phone or when we have a cup of coffee together. They'll ask me, am I ready to franchise? And really, it sounds like 3 separate things. But essentially what happens is we have to go in to a restaurant. Before I can answer that question thoroughly, we have to go into a restaurant and look at what's replicable, what's scalable, because that's what franchising or even expansion is. A restaurant owner may not want to franchise, but they may want 10 more locations. Well, you can't have 10 locations efficiently and 10 different point of sales. You can't have 10 locations and 10 different manager training programs. You can't have 10 locations efficiently and 10 different processors. And so what we have to do, our team, we come in and we look at the model that's successful. We identify the things in that model that are replicable and scalable. And the things that are not, we change those, there's where the change management comes in, to a process or a vendor or a partnership that is efficient, possibly saving money. We connect them with you guys to lower their overhead and cost of operations many times. And, a lot of times we'll connect them with Joe for a point of sale that's going to work across 10 locations and provide scalable reporting, the lowest processing fees possible. Our team will develop a social media strategy that talks across the portfolio. We'll create a training university for that restaurant so that all the managers and all the staff are getting the same training on day 1 as they would get on day 100. And now we have, that one has reached that place. Now we have a model that we can replicate regardless of demographic, regardless of location, regardless of footprint. We can take that successful model then and replicate it wherever the need arises, wherever the business owner wants to be.
That's fantastic. And it doesn't matter, like Joe was saying before, geography doesn't matter. You could work within the entire continent of the United States.
We can. We are working in the United States, all over the U.S. right now. We're working in South Africa. We've had work in the UK, doing these kinds of things, all remote for that matter. But I do want your guests to understand that demographic matters, and so just because we can work in an area doesn't mean we should. We have to understand for example, let's just use pizza, since I think everybody on the call loves good pizza. We have to understand the pizza appetite in a specific geographic area. So our demographics team and analytics team will look at the purchase power of let's say 3 zip codes that we're targeting for a new pizza shop, or the second pizza shop, or the 200th pizza shop. We're going to look at that demographic and understand their purchasing power. We're going to understand what the market saturation is. If a 30,000 population can only support 3 pizza restaurants effectively and profitably, we're not going to be number 4. We're going to look somewhere else and make sure that our clients go where they need to be.
Good points. I kind of want to turn this around a little bit and talk to Joe. And I have like a 2-part question, Joe. So kind of bear with me.
Sure.
I mean, one is, what do you believe are like good characteristics to be successful in the industry? And tell me some of the most common questions that you get.
Good characteristics in this industry is, perseverance. You got to be able to, it's really reading the person. Okay. So you got to be able to understand what their needs are. Not everybody that you walk into especially restaurant owners, because they are typically working in the business instead of on the business. And so you got to be able to see what their needs are and be able to be flexible to those needs, which is why at DPS, there's a lot of things that we can do that a lot of processors can't, because they lock you into contracts and things of that nature. So we can go in there and we can set up a point of sale system, and we can rent it, we can lease it, we can SaaS it. There's a lot of different ways we can put it in there. And I tend to go in there with especially new restaurant owners that are trying to find their feet, and I go in there with a rental. And so that way we can kick the tires, we can test it out. They don't like it in 30 days, we just take it out and put it on the one end. Where a lot of places won't do that. They can't do that. You have to purchase it and then you own it, right? And then, and so there's leasing it, SaaSing it. There's a lot of different ways we can do that, which will also, we will then service it for the lifetime that they are processing with us, and we will guarantee it. So if someone knocks it on the floor, we'll replace it. And so that, going back to the question was what kind of characteristics does it take? It takes somebody to understand and read the actual owner and understand what their needs are that they might not see, and then fit them into the best point of sale, or however they're going to be processing, whether, e-com, and being able to tie in all of the new delivery systems that people have, and gift cards and all kinds of stuff into one reportable system to one spot. And the reason why me and Gary work so well together is because we can get pretty, nitty gritty with everything, and be able to bring everything with multiple locations to one reporting platform, to one dashboard, so that an owner can then work on the business instead of in the business, and understand what's happening in each location all over the place. So I don't know if I answered the question fully, but that's kind of what I'm thinking is that's really where it's at. It's being able to fit the person, instead of trying to sell them something, is to fit them and find their need, and go find that piece of, whether it's software, hardware, whatever, and bring it to them. And that's what DPS does.
You did answer my question. I do want to, I think one other question I have for you, though, is for our existing clients that are watching this presentation. Where do you guys stand out? Look, we know they have merchant reps coming into their place, probably, I couldn't even tell you how many times a day during a week.
Yeah.
How can you help them there? I mean, really, where does DPS stand out?
Because we stand out because we are not beholden to any one particular processor, right? We're not necessarily a processor. We are a brokerage company. So we work with a lot of different processors, mega ISOs, banks across the country, so that somebody like Gary can come to me and say, this is what we need. And then we go make that deal. And we work on behalf of the merchant, not on behalf of a processor. So we're not trying to sell a specific processor's hardware, software rates. We go out there and we shop it around, so that when somebody comes to me and they say, here's my merchant report, what can you do for me? I immediately send it out to 4, 5, 6, 8 different processors and get them to report back to me. And then I'll start haggling. I'll start saying, hey, such and such said they can do it for this. Can you do it for that? And can you give me a free piece of equipment? And can I get this? And can I get that? And that's when we send them, then I can put the package together and bring it to the customer. It saves the customer a whole lot of time when they don't have to pick up the phone and they're looking for something, and they don't have to make 15 phone calls to try to get something in there and then they have to sign a 2-year contract before they even get it. That's not the case with me. So even I tell everybody when we start, look, if you don't like it, you don't like their customer service, you don't like it, then we'll just change. I can hold my pricing moving forward, and we can just change. 2, I also have my own customer service, right? So I try to be a liaison between the merchant and the processor or their tech support. So if they have an issue, they can call us, And we will then make that phone call. You won't sit on the phone for 2 hours waiting for somebody to pick up the phone because we call a different number than they would. And then we can be the liaison between them so that they understand what needs to happen, and as opposed to them just getting on with some tech support with some ISO and everybody's still confused at the end of the day.
You mentioned ISO a couple of times. Would you mind explaining that a little bit to us?
I'm sorry. Yeah, an ISO is an independent sales organization. So that's what an ISO is, and they tend to work with the big banks. So they'll make a deal with the big bank. They go out and they hire people around the country to go sell the big bank's products. And so they're called an ISO. And then you have places like mega ISOs, they're really big. So they can also branch off and create little ISOs off of them. But so, but the difference is they also are a third party person in between the processing and the merchant, which people don't realize, right? So we do a lot of things direct source, which means I go straight to the bank. I do have a bunch of accounts in mega ISOs depending on their offer at the time, but I work directly with the banks. So I can guarantee pricing. If I set a price for somebody and when it's all said and done, I can have the bank put it in writing that this will never go up as long as they are processing without their permission. And that's something that 99% of the people out there, they can't do. Because the bank sets their price, the ISO buys their price, and then tax onto it.
Of course, yeah, a little bit of a markup there. I get it.
Without a doubt. And it seems like, too, basically, even what Gary was saying, if you have a restaurant looking to scale and duplicate the processes, it seems like it would be difficult to do without that flexibility. If you don't have that flexibility, it seems like a handcuff, right? And I think what's interesting, and we're going to flip back to Gary real quick. When I was reading initially, when we had first met, and just reading the background of the company, I thought a lot of things obviously jumped out, but change management, and tell me if I'm wrong, when you look at change management, people automatically think, oh, well, that's got to be, when you need a change, maybe things aren't going so well. I look at it almost like the opposite, maybe tweaking internals as you could scale. So tell us a little bit, give us an example of companies you've worked with internally, because I know you have a proprietary 4-step approach to that. So give us, you engage the restaurant, right? I'm doing well, or at least I think I'm doing well. At what point am I engaging you? At what point should I call Gary and say, Gary, listen, this is where we're at. We're looking to either scale or improve efficiencies. Tell us a little bit about that process, what you and your team would do if you got that call.
That's a great question. Change management, believe it or not, is most often used by the government. And it's because if you can imagine
bleep that.
a federal department or a state department that needs to change, for example, who they use for email or who they use for file storage or how they do their training. Those are things that change management is typically used for. In a restaurant capacity, you're right, that's spot on. When they're getting ready to scale or when they're getting ready to grow their brand, quite often we will get called in to really test the efficiency of their model and make sure they are as lean as they can possibly be. What change management really ends up being is lean, a process of getting lean. For us, that means me or one of our team showing up and doing what quite often is a 4-hour intake. And that starts at the front door and goes out the back door. I mean, there's no stone unturned. Now, we don't do that all at once, not to give anyone a heart attack, but we can do it all at once, or we can do that over a period of time. But it is a systematic intake interview that really tells us where there may be inefficiencies or where there may be wins that need to be kept, or systems that are working well that need to be strengthened or replicated. So change management really begins with an in-depth intake interview. We're working on one now. It starts on March 7th. It is in the healthcare industry, but restaurants a lot of times will just call and say, hey, I need you to come do an intake interview with me to make sure that we're as lean as we can possibly be. And most of the time where we land is in the training. Training is a lot of times that you can, if any of you worked fast food when you were in high school or in that kind of environment, you show up on day one and they pop you at the grill, give you a spatula and say, go for it. The training was minimal. When restaurants are ready to scale, you have to have documentation of what's expected of each of your employees. Number one. Number two, you have to create a culture of career. We focus on developing career culture in restaurants. It's just so lacking in today's restaurant communities. And I'm sure your restaurant owners will be like, heck yeah, I can't even find somebody to come into work 2 days in a row, much less career culture. Well, we help develop the communication that says to those weekenders who are looking for beer and pizza money instead of a career, it tells them this is really not the place for you. We're looking for people for the long term. And if you'll stay with me, I've got a place for you to go. We're going to grow this restaurant and we're going to give you opportunities for upward mobility. Things like that are what we bring to the table for restaurant owners out of the gate. We've created a lot of universities for restaurants. Those include videos and online engaging training, exams. They have to test out of it within 30 days of their hire date. Stuff like that. That's just super important to create a sustainable environment for employees to grow. That's a huge one for us.
I love that. Do you get involved with almost like a fractional CFO, margins, looking at cash flow, balance sheets? And if so, what has the inflation done to your model at this point when a business owner was paying, say, $50 for chicken wings and now they're paying $175? Like, the inflation's been historical.
Yeah, it has been. So, I mean, we were dealing with this in California. If you can imagine what chicken wings cost in North Carolina, imagine what they cost in California, even from the same suppliers. So Cisco might sell chicken wings in North Carolina for $50 a case, but in California, they are $170 a case.
Yep.
So yes, we have to navigate all of that. And there's something that I'd like to say to your listeners. We distinguish between cost of goods sold and cost of goods delivered. There's a difference. The cost of goods delivered says that I'm going to manage my overhead from all of the net. So when I sell a hamburger, the net on that hamburger has to be enough to support this business. So often when restaurant owners, because nobody tells them this stuff, when they're doing the math and they're checking how much that hamburger is to sell, or that combo, for example, is to sell, and they get down to their net, they think that goes in their pocket. What they don't remember is that you have to cover your light bill and your gas bill and your rent and your other things, not just the bun and condiments and the meat. You have to cover all of those other things. And so we go in and we make sure that prices that are being charged cover that. But beyond that, in the change management world, Dan and Vinny, we have to go negotiate with vendors. And quite often the difference is, look, I've got my pen here. I'm pointing to something. When we start negotiating with vendors, a lot of times restaurant owners don't realize that these supply houses provide terms. And what a break, what a gift, a shot in the arm it would be if their food provider, if their food wholesaler would give them what's called net 10 end of month. All the food providers now around the world hate me because I just gave that away. It's called net 10 end of month. Ask them about it, and if they act dumb, call me, and I'll bring them up to speed on what the net 10 end of month means. But that's a net 30. Where you can get food in the restaurant, sell it for 30 days, and then almost like consignment, pay for what you've used. So little things like that really make profitability achievable, even in today's market.
And it's got to be difficult for a restaurant owner. So I mean, I've owned restaurants before, and everything that you just said, I'm sitting here thinking, man, I wish I knew you then. I'm telling you, between the margins, employee theft, I was one of those restaurant owners that tried to keep cutting prices at my bar and restaurant to undercut the neighbors, and I should have been doing maybe the opposite and creating more of a unique experience. So I love this, but I'm just like, wow, I wish I can get in the DeLorean and go back in time, and apply all this information.
I wrote an article some time ago, I think it was early last year, for a magazine in franchising, about there is no scarcity. And what I mean by that is a lot of restaurant owners are cutting their prices to be competitive. And the answer to being competitive, and I don't want to unpack this, that's another 2-hour Q&A. The answer to being competitive is not cutting price. The answer to being competitive is to justify the experience. And you can do that. There is a reason why I'm going to choose, I'm getting into the weeds here, but there's a reason that your market share is going to choose your restaurant at least twice a week. You've just got to tell them what that is. And a lot of times, if you'll just structure your messaging in a way that tells them, look, I want to go to Dan's place twice a week with my family for these 3 reasons. If you'll just put that in their lap, quite often the price doesn't matter. It's the experience that we're selling. Pizza shop owners call me all the time and say, well, I've got 10 pizza shops in my town. What am I supposed to do? And I said, well, what's your recipe? What do you mean, what's my recipe? Where do you get your pizza sauce recipe? Did it come from a family member? Was it passed down for the last 100 generations from Sicily? Tell me that kind of stuff, because that's what's going to make me decide I want that Sicilian pizza sauce on my pizza twice a week or once a month, twice a month, whatever it takes to support your restaurant. We communicate that, they make a buying decision, and you've got the liquidity you need to stay open. All right, I'm going to stop right. That's my soapbox. Sorry, I'm done.
No, it's funny. I just want to.
Hope. It's hope. We're communicating hope.
You know, I think the one thing, and you pointed it out before, is when you're a business owner, it's all about profit, okay? And, you know, we all know Business 101, profit is what? Revenue minus your fixed and variable costs, okay? Yeah. Those variable costs are going up a little bit. You mentioned your fixed costs, your rent, stuff like that. We get it. But, okay, what are we doing to adapt to this new environment? And you hit it on the head, so I appreciate that. It's a great explanation. Even though you went on your soapbox a little bit, Gary. That's all right.
We love soapboxes here.
Sorry.
So, all right, Joe, you know, I want to give you a little time on your soapbox now. You know, I don't want to just be one-sided with Gary here. You know, and you brought it up a little bit before. I think a big thing, and Dan and I can attest to this, when we're dealing with, you know, business owners in the hospitality industry, specifically the restaurant vertical, we're talking about, you know, card processing and things like that. But point of sale is a big issue with a lot of these companies. All right. Expand on me how you can help them. You know, you come in, you're talking to a business owner, they have established point of sale, or maybe their rates are going up all the time. Where can you help, and what can you do for them?
Well, first off, you want a flexible point of sale system. And so when I'm looking at a point of sale system for a specific person, for a specific company or restaurant, it's really about how flexible can we be? It's about where are they going to go? What is their future plans? Most people, when they're coming in there, they're trying to sell them a monitor, a software, a printer, and a thing, and they're trying to get their commission off of that. And that's kind of how it works. My ISO has this, and this is what they push, and they sell. I don't want to say a name, but they sell X, and here it is, and I'll give you a price on it, and we want you to fit into it. Where it's different, because we can work with a lot of different softwares, a lot of different hardwares. We can come up with custom stuff. I mean, it really doesn't matter. It's really all about what do we see the need for the restaurant is, and then we try to fit that need the best that we can with what's out there. And it could take some mixing and matching of different stuff, but it's also having something that's open source, so that there is a lot of different variables. So if somebody's, depending on, not every software for doing inventory is the same, right? So if you get something that can, that is cloud-based and app, you know, that you can pull the apps in, you can really go through and pick what you want and pull down what you want. And it can change the cost and the price depending on how elaborate you want to get. So some people want a POS system, but want it extremely simple. You know, some people want a POS system that really goes into every single detail. And so that's what we try to do, is we try to get them what they need and what will service them as they expand in the future. And that's what we're always looking for. That's working with Gary. That's what we're always looking at. I mean, you can look at a restaurant or any business and say, okay, this is what suits your needs, and I'm going to sell you this, and then I'm going to lock you into a contract. But are they looking at where are they going to be? You know, my first question to Gary is, well, what's their goal next year? How many locations are they going to have? What are you looking at 5 years from now? And okay, so even if we're working on a project right now that, you know, I could go a certain way and I can give them credit card processing, but I introduced them to Gary, and then Gary said, well, no, we're going to be doing this mobile thing. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing that. So I'm like, okay, so we need to go with something way different than just getting them to process credit cards.
And, you know, I'm glad you brought that up, because Dan and I, as a company vision, it's not just the immediate need we look for. We're looking down the road, and we're trying to make sure that, look, this isn't a one-off. We're here for the relationship. We're here to grow with you, help you grow, and be there to support you throughout that process. So thank you for bringing it up, because I think that's extremely important. You know, we can all agree that, you know, you said business owners now are working in the business and not on the business. They're wearing multiple hats now. We get it. They're doing things they didn't have to do in the past, okay? They're having their challenges on their own, you know, inventory, staffing, okay, everything. So we know. And, you know, thank you for bringing it up. This is extremely important. We're not just, you know, one and done and thank you. You know, we're in it for the long haul. So thank you very much for bringing it up. It's extremely important.
And then we can adapt over time too. So that's where we don't lock anybody into anything. So over time, we will service it. And if it doesn't work, then we'll flip it. We'll flip it to something else. And that's the point. That's the whole point of it. You know, and I'll just bring up one other point is a lot of people come to me and they ask, I think you asked me the question earlier and I don't think I answered it. It was, what's the most common question? The most common question is, what is your rate? Right? Because people they always purchase off of rate. They think that that's, oh, you're 2.4, you're 2.2, you're 1. Oh, I'm going to go with 2.2. What I don't, you know, and so to me, I don't have a rate. There is no rate, because if somebody's throwing you out a rate, it's probably way too high, right? Because, and you get places out there, and I guess I could say their name because they're pretty popular, but like Square, PayPal, things like that. They're all what's called flat rate companies, right? So they're flat rate. And so why do they run at 2.85 and 30 cents a transaction? Because American Express is 2.85, right? So American Express is the most expensive card that anybody carries in there for the merchant, that anybody carries in their pocket, right? They swipe that card, everybody knows they're paying 2.85, right? And so that's why all those flat raters go above that, right? So they're all above that. So knowing that that's the highest thing that we have in our pocket, everything for us is going to be lower, right? So that's why I can almost guarantee that I can save you money one way or the other. The flip side of that is there's so many different variables when it comes to what is a rate, what forms a rate. It's the type of cards that come in. You know, it's the type of cards that come in. It's how a particular restaurant is sitting, is actually sitting with the government. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank here. On the exchange, it's how they're sitting on the exchange. There's different rankings in the exchange, right? So a restaurant can have 7 or 8 different rankings on the exchange, and that's going to affect what Visa can bill them, right? And so most people don't realize that. So we look at everything. We look at not only the type of cards that are coming, we do things over a 90-day period. So when somebody comes in and says, what's your rate? I go, well, I don't know until I understand who your customers are, what you're selling, how much, you know, what's your average ticket price? All of those things are variations. And then, do you sell alcohol? Don't you sell alcohol? Do you have, you know, do you have drive-through? Do you have a takeout? Are you delivery service? All those things are different rates. People don't realize that. So I start everybody off as a basic cost plus model. And so for the next 30, 60, and then 90, I'll sit there and we'll do an analysis on them and see, where do we need to make adjustments? So we can do combinations of, we can flat rate this and we can variable rate that. There's a lot of different ways that we can do it. And so without getting into the weeds, because I'm going to get on my soapbox too, I can talk about this for an hour. But it's not about a rate, right? There's a lot of different variations that comes to creating something for somebody like that.
You make a good point. I think a lot of business owners are conditioned. Price point.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Rates,
without
dollars,
a doubt.
you know,
Yep.
we get it, you know, we get it. And I think that's where Dan and I come in and kind of try to educate them. I'll put it that way. Educate them on the process. It's not just all about 1 point or 1 point. It's, you know, let's understand the process and make sure we're taking advantage of it. So
yeah, and people are out there, they'll sell low rate, but then they hit you with a whole bunch of fees.
Yeah.
So what's the point?
Exactly.
What's the point? At the end of the month, you're still paying 3.5.
With zero flexibility.
Right, that's right. With
You know,
zero
which is crazy. And I know we focused on the restaurant vertical in this conversation, but it's important to know that you both work with basically just about any industry, correct?
Any
So
industry.
with that in mind, you know, this conversation, there's really a follow-up to a town hall style discussion we're going to have that's going to allow business owners to actually engage both of you and ask questions and things that can help their organization. So before we do that, and as we wrap this conversation up, I just have one more question for each of you. We'll start with Gary, and then we'll go over to Joe. All right. So who is Gary Norris?
I am.
I love it.
Wow, that's a trick question. That I see a huge abyss. I'm ready to fall into the abyss. I am a very simple guy. My vice is coffee. I love playing my guitar and spending time with my family. I am fierce about making sure that the business owner wins. That's what gets me up in the morning, usually before everyone else. I am also a farm guy and a logger. I come from a long history of lumbermen and sawmill men in the mountains of North Carolina, especially the Blue Ridge. So I live on a 13-acre farm in an 1880 house that on property that belonged to the regulators during the Revolutionary War. I spend a lot of time outside when it's warm enough, and again, just love hanging out with my kids and my wife, beautiful wife, who works with me. So if you work with me, folks, you'll get to see my wife eventually.
Awesome.
She keeps me straight. So that's I'm a pretty simple guy. Actually, I'm wearing work boots right now. You can't see it. I did
Zoom attire.
Right. My wife said to me this morning, "You're going to wear your loggers to this call?" I said, "Yeah, they're only going to see me from the chest up."
Absolutely.
At least I'm wearing pants. I'm wearing pants.
That's important.
And but that's me. So if you come to my house on Saturday, I'll be cutting wood somewhere. So there you go.
I love it. Joe, same question to you, buddy.
Oh yeah, that's a tough one. Who is Joe Nazario? Who am I? I am I'm a family guy. That's what I do. I mean, I have a wife and I have 2 kids and a dog, and I live in Greensboro, North Carolina. And to me, everything I started doing this. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. You know, basically straight out of college. I just started a business, and this is my 3rd iteration. But this is the one that I think I got it right finally. Every one that I've done prior to this has been about the same kind of thing, which is, you know, serving the customers, customer service, making sure they get everything that they need that I can possibly do for them. And I do this to create freedom for myself to be able to spend time with my family. And that's really what it's all about. Because to me, it's about being able to hop in the car on a Friday afternoon and head to the beach and sit there with the kids and the thing, or go, you know, they love to go hiking and things like that. And so we'll go into the woods and go find a creek or go find a waterfall somewhere and just sit there for hours. And that's what we do. I mean, that's what we like to do. And you know, my wife is, she helps me out a lot. She's not in the business. We tried that. It didn't quite work. But she, you know, she's a volleyball coach. And so we travel around to do that. My daughter is a junior Olympic volleyball player, and
Nice.
now she's coaching. So we do a lot of stuff like that, where we're packing up, heading somewhere to go do a volleyball tournament or something like that. And to me, that's fun. I love doing that. A lot of people dread that. But to me, that's my nirvana, is to sit there and just go pack everybody in the car and go to someplace and do that. And, you know, on the side, I'm a bowler. I used to be a pro bowler back in the day. And this was many years ago when I was in my early 20s. And I retired for about 17 years. And now I'm getting back into it again. So
Awesome.
I have, you know, I love to do that. That's my other safe space. And that's, you know, that's about me. It's pretty, it's a pretty simple life, and
Love it.
that's it.
Absolutely love it. Vinny, when we meet face to face, when we meet Joe face to face, remind us not to get hustled bowling. You know what I'm saying?
I only got one question for Joe. Joe, hook or straight?
Oh, straight? No. I can hook it off the planet if you need to.
Now, listen, believe it or not, I threw a $2.99 game, or not a $2.99 game. I threw all strikes in a bowling game, rolling straight, except for the last frame.
Oh.
And the people we were bowling with thought I hustled them. It was total freak accident. I can't repeat that. I've been trying for 15 years. But just so you know, it can happen with a straight throw. I'm just saying.
That's awesome. Well, thank both of you for joining. Just to kind of circle back, we are going to have a town hall type discussion. Invitations will go out. Entrepreneurs, business owners, a very diverse group of people have an opportunity to tap the minds of both of you. And I think that right there, in terms of investing time in your own growth, that's a tremendous opportunity for people. So thank you again. We truly appreciate it. Gary Norris from Norris Ventures and Joe Nazario from DPS Card Services. Looking forward to the town hall. And thanks again, guys. We appreciate it.
Thank
Dan
you,
and
guys.
Vincent, I really appreciate you guys doing this with us, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
A lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.